Leonard's life was ordinary, perhaps even mundane. He worked a typical 9-to-5 job, lived alone in a small apartment, and had the usual friends and social circle. But everything changed one night. As he drifted into sleep, something unusual happened. A dream unlike any he had experienced before. In the dream, Leonard found himself in a dense, fog-covered forest. The air was cool and damp, carrying the scent of rain and pine. It wasn't the kind of dream that faded after a few minutes. It was vivid, immersive, and felt incredibly real. He could feel the crunch of leaves beneath his feet and hear the distant rustle of animals moving through the brush. The dream was peaceful but eerie, as if the forest held some hidden secret. As Leonard wandered deeper into the woods, a figure appeared in the distance. At first, it was just a shadow moving between the trees, but as he approached, the figure became clearer. It was a young woman with long, flowing hair and a soft, ethereal glow surrounding her. Her name was Jennifer, and when she turned to face Leonard, he felt an inexplicable connection, as though he had known her for years. Jennifer's eyes were filled with a mix of sorrow and longing. She wore a simple white dress, and around her neck was a silver necklace with an ornate pendant that shimmered in the dim light. Leonard was drawn to her immediately, not just because of her beauty, but because of the deep sadness that seemed to surround her. "You're here," Jennifer whispered, her voice soft and melodic. "I've been waiting for you." Leonard was confused but couldn't find the words to respond. It was as if some invisible force was guiding him toward her. He reached out his hand, and when their fingers touched, a warm sensation spread through him. The connection between them was undeniable, as if their fates had been intertwined long before this moment. Before Leonard could speak, the dream ended abruptly. He woke up in his bed, drenched in sweat, his heart racing. But something was different. This dream felt more like a memory than a product of his subconscious. And as strange as it seemed, Leonard couldn't shake the feeling that Jennifer was real. The next day, Leonard couldn't stop thinking about Jennifer and the dream. He replayed every detail in his mind. The forest, her voice, the way her eyes seemed to pierce through him. It wasn't just the vividness of the dream that unsettled him. It was the lingering feeling that this was more than just a figment of his imagination. At work, he found himself zoning out, unable to focus on his tasks. His coworkers noticed his distraction, but Leonard didn't care. He was obsessed with the dream, with Jennifer. The feeling of connection was so strong that it consumed him. That night, he went to bed earlier than usual, hoping he would dream of her again. And he did. The second dream picked up right where the first had left off, as if no time had passed at all. Leonard was back in the forest, and Jennifer stood before him once more. This time, her sadness seemed even deeper, and Leonard felt a desperate need to comfort her. "Who are you?" Leonard asked, his voice trembling. Jennifer smiled sadly. "I'm someone who's been lost for a very long time," she said. "And you're the only one who can help me." Leonard didn't understand what she meant, but he felt compelled to help her nonetheless. "How can I help you?" he asked. Jennifer hesitated, her eyes flickering with uncertainty. "I'm trapped," she finally said. "I don't belong here, in this place between dreams and reality. I need you to find me." Leonard's heart raced. "But how? You're just a dream, aren't you?" Jennifer shook her head. "This may feel like a dream, but it's real. I'm real, and you need to trust me." Leonard stared at her, trying to wrap his mind around what she was saying. Could it be true? Could this dream be something more than just his subconscious mind at play? As Jennifer reached out and touched his hand again, a sudden jolt of energy shot through him. It was as if her touch had left an imprint on him, something tangible that lingered even after the dream ended. When Leonard woke up, he found a strange mark on his wrist, a faint, silver outline that glimmered in the early morning light. It was the same symbol that had been engraved on Jennifer's necklace in the dream. His heart raced. The dream was real. For the next few days, Leonard was consumed by the strange mark on his wrist. It wasn't something that could be easily explained away. He had no memory of hurting himself, and the mark was unlike any bruise or scratch he had ever seen. It was delicate, almost like an intricate tattoo, but there was no pain or irritation. He tried to ignore it at first, convincing himself that it was just a bizarre coincidence. But deep down, he knew it was connected to Jennifer and the dream world. The more he thought about it, the more certain he became that she was real, that she was trying to reach him from beyond the dream. That night, Leonard returned to bed, both anxious and eager to see her again. He had so many questions, but more than anything, he needed to understand what was happening. Why had Jennifer chosen him? What did she mean by being trapped? And how could a dream leave behind a physical mark? As soon as he drifted into sleep, Leonard found himself back in the forest. This time, the fog was thicker, and the air felt heavier, almost oppressive. Jennifer appeared, but there was something different about her. Her glow was dimmer, and her movements were slower, as if the weight of the dream world was taking its toll on her. "You have the mark," Jennifer said, her eyes flickering toward Leonard's wrist. Leonard held up his arm, showing her the faint outline on his skin. "What does it mean?" he asked. "It means you're connected to me now," Jennifer said softly. "We're bound by something stronger than just a dream." Leonard felt a chill run down his spine. "Bound? What do you mean?" Jennifer looked at him with an intensity that made his heart pound. "I'm not just a dream, Leonard. I'm a part of your life now, whether you like it or not, and I need your help to escape." Leonard felt overwhelmed. He had never asked for any of this, but now it seemed like he had no choice. "What do I need to do?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Jennifer's eyes softened. "You need to find me. In the waking world." Leonard's mind spun. Find her? How is that even possible? But before he could ask any more questions, the dream began to fade, and Jennifer disappeared into the mist. When Leonard woke up, the mark on his wrist had darkened, becoming more defined. He stared at it in disbelief. Whatever was happening, it was far from over. Leonard couldn't shake the feeling that Jennifer was real, that she was out there somewhere, waiting for him to find her. The dreams had become more vivid, more intense, and the mark on his wrist was a constant reminder that this wasn't just a figment of his imagination. Determined to uncover the truth, Leonard began researching everything he could about dreams, the paranormal, and the concept of being trapped between worlds. He visited libraries, scoured the internet, and even spoke to a few experts on lucid dreaming and astral projection, but no one could offer any concrete answers. It wasn't until Leonard stumbled upon an old, obscure book in a second-hand bookstore that he found something that resonated with him. The book was titled Dreamwalkers, Souls Lost Between Realms, and it described ancient legends of people who became trapped in the dream world, unable to fully return to the waking world without help from a living person. The more Leonard read, the more it sounded like Jennifer's situation. According to the book, a dreamwalker could only be freed if someone from the waking world formed a strong enough connection with them, strong enough to pull them back into reality. Suddenly, everything started to make sense. The mark on his wrist, the vivid dreams, Jennifer's pleas for help. It was all part of something much bigger than he had realized. Leonard knew what he had to do. He had to find Jennifer, not just in the dream world, but in the real world as well. If she was truly trapped, then he was the only one who could save her. With a renewed sense of purpose, Leonard prepared himself for the journey ahead. He didn't know where it would lead him, but one thing was certain. He wasn't going to give up until he found Jennifer, no matter the cost. Leonard's obsession with finding Jennifer grew stronger each night. The dreams became a world he yearned to enter, even though they increasingly filled him with dread. Every time he closed his eyes, he was transported back to the eerie forest where Jennifer awaited him, her sorrow deepening with each visit. One night, as Leonard fell asleep, the dream began differently. Instead of waking up in the forest, he found himself standing on the edge of a large, dark lake. The water was still, reflecting the clouded sky overhead. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and something else, something metallic, like blood. Leonard's heart raced as he glanced around, searching for any sign of Jennifer. Then, she appeared. Jennifer emerged from the fog on the other side of the lake, her white dress now streaked with dirt and her glowing form dimmer than ever before. Her eyes, once filled with sorrow, now held a hint of desperation. She raised her hand, beckoning Leonard to cross the water and come to her. "I don't have much time," Jennifer said, her voice carrying across the lake. "You need to hurry, Leonard." Leonard took a step toward the lake's edge, but something held him back. The water seemed too still, too unnatural. His instinct screamed at him to be cautious, but the pull of Jennifer was too strong. He had come this far, and he couldn't abandon her now. He waded into the water, the coldness biting at his skin. As he moved deeper, the water quickly rose, reaching his waist, then his chest. Leonard's heart pounded in his chest as the weight of the water pressed against him, making it difficult to move. Every step felt like a battle, but he couldn't stop. Jennifer's voice echoed in his mind, urging him to come closer. Suddenly, something brushed against his leg, a cold, slimy sensation that made him freeze in place. He looked down, but the water was too murky to see anything. Panic surged through him as he felt another brush, this time stronger, as if something was wrapping around his ankle. He struggled to move, but the unseen force pulled him down, dragging him deeper into the water. Leonard gasped for breath as the water rose to his neck, and in the distance, he heard Jennifer calling out to him, her voice filled with fear. "No, Leonard, don't let them take you." Just as the water closed over his head, Leonard woke up, gasping for air. He sat up in bed, drenched in sweat, his heart pounding in his chest. For a moment, he was disoriented, still half caught in the dream. But as his surroundings came into focus, he realized he was safe, at least for now. But something was different this time. As Leonard swung his legs out of bed, his foot brushed against something cold and wet on the floor. He looked down and froze. There, lying on the hardwood floor next to his bed, was a small puddle of dark, murky water. It wasn't just a dream. The dream was crossing over into reality, and the boundaries between the two worlds were beginning to blur. Leonard's discovery of the puddle of water shook him to his core. He had already accepted that Jennifer was real, but this was something else entirely. The dream was no longer confined to his mind. It was leaking into his waking life, pulling him deeper into its strange and terrifying grip. The mark on his wrist had darkened further, now resembling a full, intricate symbol, almost like a rune. It pulsed, faintly, as if alive, a constant reminder that he was bound to Jennifer in a way he didn't fully understand. He spent the next few days searching for answers, trying to find any clue that could help him make sense of what was happening. He pored over the Dreamwalker's book, scouring its pages for information about the boundary between dreams and reality. According to the text, the more time a person spent in the dream world, the thinner the veil between the two realms became. If left unchecked, the dream world could begin to manifest in the waking world, drawing the dreamer into a state of limbo, trapped between both worlds. Leonard realized that was exactly what was happening to him. The dreams were no longer just dreams. They were becoming a gateway to something far more dangerous. That night, Leonard went to bed with a sense of dread. He knew he had to see Jennifer again, but he feared what the dream would bring. He had to get answers, and he had to understand how to stop the dream from consuming him. When the dream began, Leonard was once again in the forest, but this time, it was different. The trees were taller, their branches twisted and gnarled, and the fog was thicker, making it hard to see. The air was colder, biting at his skin, and the ground beneath him felt unstable, as if it could give way at any moment. Jennifer was waiting for him, her face pale and gaunt. She looked more like a ghost than ever before, her once bright glow reduced to a faint shimmer. Leonard rushed to her, his heart heavy with worry. "What's happening?" Leonard demanded. "Why is this getting worse? Why is the dream crossing over into reality?" Jennifer looked at him with sorrowful eyes. "Because the dream is trying to keep us here," she said. "It doesn't want me to leave. And now, it's trying to pull you in too." Leonard's blood ran cold. "How do we stop it?" Jennifer hesitated, her gaze dropping to the ground. "There's only one way to stop it," she whispered. "You have to find the source of the dream, the place where it all began." Leonard frowned. "The source? What does that mean?" Jennifer looked up at him, her eyes filled with both fear and hope. "There's a place in the dream world where everything started. It's the heart of the dream, the place where I became trapped. If you can find it and destroy it, the dream will end, and I'll be free." Leonard felt a surge of determination. He didn't know how he was going to find this mysterious place, but he knew he had to try. Jennifer's life, and his own, depended on it. "I'll find it," Leonard said, his voice filled with resolve. "I'll find the source and end this." Jennifer nodded, a faint smile crossing her lips. "Be careful," she warned. "The dream won't let you go easily." The next time Leonard fell asleep, he knew he had to go deeper into the dream world than ever before. He had to find the heart of the dream, the source of the nightmare that had trapped Jennifer and was now threatening to consume him. When he awoke in the dream, he found himself in an unfamiliar place. Gone was the forest he had grown accustomed to. Instead, he stood at the edge of a vast, crumbling city, its once grand buildings reduced to ruins. The sky above was a sickly shade of green, and the air was heavy with the stench of decay. It was a place of desolation, where time seemed to stand still. Leonard knew instinctively that this was where he would find the source of the dream. He could feel it in his bones, a dark, oppressive force that seemed to pulse beneath the surface, waiting for him to uncover it. As he ventured deeper into the city, the sense of unease grew stronger. The streets were empty, but Leonard could feel eyes watching him from the shadows. Whispers echoed around him, though he couldn't make out the words. The dream was alive, and it didn't want him there. The mark on his wrist began to burn, growing hotter with each step. Leonard gritted his teeth, refusing to be deterred. He had come too far to turn back now. At the center of the city, Leonard found a massive, crumbling cathedral. Its doors were ajar, as if inviting him inside. He hesitated for only a moment before stepping through the threshold. Inside, the cathedral was dark and cold. The air was thick with the smell of rot, and the walls were lined with strange, twisted statues, figures that seemed to be frozen in agony. At the far end of the room, a single figure stood in the shadows, watching him. Jennifer. But something was wrong. This wasn't the Jennifer he knew. Her eyes were dark, filled with malice, and her form seemed twisted, like a distorted reflection of the girl he had come to know. "Jennifer?" Leonard called out, his voice shaking. The figure smiled, but it wasn't Jennifer's warm, gentle smile. It was cold, cruel. "You thought you could save her?" the figure hissed, its voice dripping with venom. "You thought you could defy the dream?" Leonard took a step back, his heart pounding in his chest. This wasn't Jennifer. This was the dream itself, the source of the nightmare that had trapped her. Without warning, the figure lunged at him, its form shifting and warping into something monstrous. Leonard stumbled back, his mind racing. He had to destroy the source, but how? In a moment of clarity, Leonard realized what he had to do. The mark on his wrist, the connection between him and Jennifer, was the key. If he could sever the bond, he could destroy the dream. He reached for the necklace Jennifer had given him, the one that had crossed over from the dream into reality. With a surge of strength, he ripped the necklace from his neck and threw it at the monstrous figure. The moment the necklace made contact, the figure let out a deafening scream. The cathedral began to crumble around Leonard, the walls collapsing as the dream world began to unravel. Leonard closed his eyes, bracing himself for the end. Leonard awoke with a start, gasping for air. His heart was pounding, and his body was drenched in sweat. For a moment, he lay there, trying to process what had just happened. The dream, it was over. The connection between him and Jennifer was broken. But as Leonard sat up in bed, he realized something was different. The mark on his wrist was gone, and the air around him felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. For the first time in what felt like forever, Leonard felt truly awake. But what of Jennifer? Was she free, or had the dream claimed her forever? As Leonard looked around the room, his eyes fell on something lying on the floor near his bed. It was the necklace, the one he had thrown at the dream's source. Leonard's relief at waking up was short-lived. He stared at the necklace on the floor, the very object that had crossed over from his dreams into reality. His fingers itched to pick it up, but a deep sense of unease washed over him. The dream might be over, but something lingered, something unfinished. He cautiously reached for the necklace, half expecting it to burn his skin or pulse with the same energy he'd felt in the dream. But when he touched it, the necklace was cold, eerily cold, as if it had been lying at the bottom of a frozen lake. He lifted it to examine the pendant. It was a simple, delicate piece. Nothing about it screamed supernatural, but Leonard knew better. This necklace had been given to him by a girl who only existed in his dreams. As he held the necklace, a sudden chill ran down his spine, and a voice, faint but familiar, whispered in his ear. "Leonard, help me." His breath caught in his throat. Jennifer's voice. It was her, still trapped. His heart raced, and he quickly dropped the necklace, backing away as if it had turned into a viper. He thought he had ended the dream, destroyed the source, but Jennifer's voice echoed in his mind. Could it be that she was still trapped somewhere in the dream world, even after the nightmare had crumbled? He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story, more he had yet to uncover. Days passed, and Leonard tried to return to his normal life, but the dream world had left its mark on him. He found it impossible to concentrate at work, and sleep became something he feared. Every time he closed his eyes, he wondered if he'd wake up in the nightmare again, or worse, if he'd never wake up at all. The necklace haunted him. He tried to throw it away, but each time he did, it mysteriously reappeared on his nightstand. The boundary between the dream and reality had blurred to a point where Leonard no longer knew where one ended and the other began. One night, unable to resist any longer, Leonard picked up the necklace again, hoping it would give him some answers. As soon as his fingers curled around the pendant, he felt a sharp pain in his chest, a stabbing sensation that took his breath away. His vision blurred, and the world around him dissolved into darkness. Leonard opened his eyes and found himself back in the dream world, but this time, it was different. The city of ruins he had ventured through in the previous dream was no longer there. Instead, he was standing in the middle of a dense forest, the same one where he had first met Jennifer. The air was thick with fog, and the familiar feeling of being watched crept over him. Jennifer's voice echoed faintly in the distance. "Leonard, I need you." He began to walk, his heart pounding as he followed the sound of her voice. The trees seemed to close in around him, their twisted branches reaching out like skeletal hands. The ground beneath his feet was soft and damp, and every step felt like he was sinking deeper into the earth. After what felt like hours of walking, Leonard emerged from the forest and found himself standing before an old, crumbling mansion. It was enormous, with dark, ivy-covered walls and broken windows that seemed to watch him like eyes. This was the heart of the dream, the place where Jennifer was trapped. He stepped forward, the front door creaking open as if it had been waiting for him. Inside, the mansion was even more unsettling. The air was thick with dust, and the walls were lined with portraits of faceless figures. A grand staircase loomed before him, its steps covered in cobwebs and dirt. As Leonard ascended, the whispers grew louder, and Jennifer's voice echoed in his mind, urging him onward. At the top of the stairs, a long hallway stretched out before him, dimly lit by flickering candlelight. At the end of the hall, he saw a door, slightly ajar, its wood warped and cracked with age. With a deep breath, Leonard pushed the door open. Inside was a small room, barely lit by the pale moonlight streaming through the broken window. In the center of the room stood Jennifer, her back to him, gazing out at the forest below. She was wearing the same white dress as before, but it was torn and tattered, stained with dirt and blood. "Jennifer," Leonard whispered, stepping toward her. She didn't turn around, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. "I thought you would never come back," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Leonard's heart ached at the sound of her words. He had promised to save her, but he had failed. Now, he was back, and he would do whatever it took to free her. "I'm here," Leonard said, moving closer. "I won't leave you again." Jennifer finally turned to face him, her eyes filled with tears. "You can't save me, Leonard. The dream won't let me go." Before Leonard could respond, the walls around them began to shift and warp. The room started to close in, the air growing colder and more suffocating by the second. Leonard's pulse quickened as the floor beneath them began to crumble, revealing a dark void below. "No," Leonard shouted, reaching for Jennifer's hand. "I won't let you go." But as his fingers closed around hers, he felt something cold and slimy wrap around his wrist. He looked down in horror to see the dark, shadowy tendrils from the void creeping up his arm, pulling him and Jennifer into the darkness. Leonard and Jennifer fell into the abyss, their screams swallowed by the darkness. The cold tendrils dragged them deeper and deeper, pulling them toward the heart of the dream, where the true nightmare awaited. Leonard could barely breathe. His mind raced as he tried to figure out a way to save Jennifer and himself, but the darkness was overwhelming, crushing him with its weight. Suddenly, they landed on solid ground. Leonard gasped for air, his body trembling from the fall. He looked around and saw that they were standing in a vast, open space. The ground was black and slick, like oil, and the air was thick with a rancid smell. In the distance, a towering figure loomed, its form shifting and writhing like a mass of shadows. This was it, the source of the dream. Jennifer stood beside Leonard, her face pale and her eyes filled with fear. "It's too late," she whispered. "The dream has already claimed us." "No," Leonard said, his voice firm. "I won't let it. I'll find a way to destroy it." The shadowy figure moved toward them, its presence suffocating. Leonard could feel the weight of its gaze on him, its darkness seeping into his very soul. He knew that this was the final battle, and if he failed, they would both be trapped in the dream forever. With a surge of determination, Leonard reached for the necklace around his neck, the one Jennifer had given him. He ripped it off and held it up, the pendant glowing faintly in the darkness. The shadow figure recoiled, hissing in anger as the light from the necklace grew brighter. Leonard could feel its power coursing through him, filling him with the strength he needed to fight back. "This is for you, Jennifer," Leonard whispered, before throwing the necklace into the heart of the shadow. The light from the pendant exploded, illuminating the entire dream world. The shadowy figure let out a deafening scream as the darkness began to dissolve, unraveling like a tapestry being torn apart. The ground beneath Leonard and Jennifer crumbled, and they were once again falling, this time toward the light. Leonard woke with a start, gasping for air. His heart was pounding, and his body was drenched in sweat. For a moment, he lay there, unsure if he was still dreaming or if he had finally woken up. But as his eyes adjusted to the dim light of his bedroom, he realized that he was home, truly home. The nightmare was over. He looked down at his wrist, expecting to see the mark, but it was gone. The weight that had pressed down on him for so long had lifted, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Leonard felt free. But something was missing. He glanced around the room and noticed the necklace lying on his nightstand, its pendant dull and lifeless. Jennifer's gift. He picked it up, holding it in his hand for a moment before slipping it into his pocket. Jennifer was gone, but she wasn't forgotten. She had been real, in some way that Leonard still couldn't fully comprehend. She had existed in the dream world, and her memory would stay with him forever. As Leonard stood up and walked to the window, he looked out at the world beyond, the real world, where dreams no longer held him captive. But even as he gazed out at the rising sun, a small part of him couldn't help but wonder, what if Jennifer was still out there, somewhere, waiting for him in the dream world? And what if, one day, he would meet her again? After his harrowing journey through the dream world, Leonard found himself grappling with the lingering effects of his experiences. Though he was awake and seemingly free, the memories of Jennifer haunted him. Her voice still echoed in his mind, reminding him of their connection. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to their story, and as the days passed, the desire to uncover the truth grew stronger. Haunted by the dream, Leonard found solace in his journal, a place where he poured out his thoughts and emotions. He documented every detail of his encounters with Jennifer, from the first moment they met to the climactic battle against the shadowy figure. The act of writing helped him process the trauma he had endured. Yet each word also reignited his longing for the girl who had brought both joy and sorrow into his life. One evening, as Leonard flipped through the pages of his journal, he noticed something peculiar. Scrawled in the margins were notes he didn't remember writing, fragments of memories that felt foreign yet familiar. They spoke of a place beyond the forest, a hidden realm within the dream world where lost souls gathered. Intrigued, Leonard felt an insatiable urge to follow this lead. He believed that if he could find this hidden realm, he might also find a way to reach Jennifer again. He could not bear the thought of her remaining trapped in the shadow. Armed with his journal, Leonard set out to discover the hidden realm. He returned to the spot in the forest where he had first encountered Jennifer, hoping to reconnect with the dream world that had brought them together. As he wandered through the dense trees, the atmosphere thickened, the air charged with a sense of anticipation. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that danced around him, and he felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. Leonard closed his eyes and took a deep breath, focusing on the connection he had felt with Jennifer. With every heartbeat, he chanted her name, hoping that it would summon her spirit. The ground beneath him trembled, and he opened his eyes to see a shimmering portal materializing before him, a swirling vortex of light and shadow. Without hesitating, Leonard stepped into the portal, his heart racing as he was enveloped by the bright light. The world around him shifted, and when he emerged on the other side, he found himself standing in a breathtaking landscape that felt like a dream come to life. The sky was painted with vibrant colors and lush, rolling hills stretched as far as the eye could see. Glowing flowers illuminated the ground, and the air was filled with a sweet fragrance. In this realm, Leonard felt a renewed sense of hope, but he also sensed an underlying darkness, a reminder of the shadows that still lingered in the depths of the dream world. As he began to explore, Leonard stumbled upon a gathering of ethereal beings, souls trapped between worlds. They moved gracefully, their forms flickering like candle flames. Intrigued, he approached one of them, a woman with flowing hair and a serene expression. "Are you lost?" she asked, her voice melodic and soothing. "I'm looking for someone," Leonard replied, his heart racing. "Her name is Jennifer." The woman's expression shifted to one of understanding. "Many have come seeking their loved ones. This realm is a refuge for those who have been touched by the shadows. Can you help me find her?" Leonard pleaded. She nodded, gesturing toward a distant mountain peak. "Follow the path to the summit. There you will find the answers you seek." Leonard followed the winding path that led to the mountain peak, determination fueling each step. The beauty of the realm surrounded him, yet he remained acutely aware of the shadows lurking just beyond the light. As he climbed higher, the air grew cooler, and a sense of urgency gripped him. Upon reaching the summit, Leonard was met with a breathtaking view of the dream world. The sky was a swirling canvas of colors, and he could see the forest where he had first met Jennifer in the distance. At the center of the summit stood an ancient stone altar, covered in glowing runes. As he approached the altar, he felt an electric charge in the air. He placed his hands on its surface, and the runes flared to life, illuminating the space with a radiant glow. Images flooded his mind, fragments of memories, glimpses of Jennifer, and the shadowy figure that had threatened to consume them both. "Leonard!" a voice rang out, cutting through the haze of visions. It was Jennifer, her form materializing before him, radiant and ethereal. "Jennifer!" he exclaimed, rushing toward her. But as he reached out, she faded, her image flickering like a candle in the wind. "Leonard, you must listen," she urged, her voice echoing in his mind. "The shadows are powerful. They feed on fear and despair. You must confront the darkness within yourself to save me." "What do I have to do?" he asked, desperation in his voice. "You must find the source of the shadows," she explained, her expression shifting to one of sorrow. "Only then can we break the curse that binds us." Leonard felt a weight settle on his chest. "But how do I do that?" "The necklace holds the key," she said, glancing at the pendant around his neck. "It is a symbol of our bond, but it also contains the remnants of the shadow. You must face it, acknowledge the darkness, and embrace the light." With Jennifer's words echoing in his heart, Leonard steeled himself for the confrontation that lay ahead. He knew that the shadows had a hold on him, feeding on his insecurities and fears. If he was to save Jennifer and free himself from their grasp, he had to confront the darkness within. As he descended the mountain, the air thickened, and the shadows began to swirl around him, growing darker and more menacing. He gripped the necklace tightly, its cool surface offering a sense of comfort in the chaos. The whispers grew louder, taunting him, dredging up his deepest fears, his fear of failure, of losing Jennifer forever. "No," Leonard shouted, pushing back against the darkness. "You will not control me." He pressed forward, and the shadows writhed, retreating momentarily as he drew strength from his determination. He could hear Jennifer's voice in his mind, urging him to keep going, and with each step, he felt the light from the necklace begin to pulse in rhythm with his heart. As he entered a clearing, he was met with the colossal shadowy figure, its form shifting and writhing, eyes like deep voids staring at him. Leonard felt a chill run down his spine, but he stood his ground, raising the necklace high. "I know you," he shouted, his voice firm. "You're the darkness that has kept Jennifer and me apart." The shadow loomed closer, and its voice echoed like thunder. "You think you can defeat me? I thrive on fear. I am your doubts, your insecurities." Leonard took a deep breath, recalling Jennifer's words. "You don't own me. I choose to fight back." He concentrated on the light emanating from the necklace, channeling every ounce of hope and love he felt for Jennifer. As the light grew brighter, the shadows recoiled, hissing and thrashing in response. "Feel the light, Leonard." Jennifer's voice resonated in his heart, giving him strength. "Embrace it." With a surge of determination, he launched the necklace at the shadowy figure, and as it struck, a blinding light erupted from the pendant. The shadows screamed in agony, the dark form twisting and contorting as the light enveloped it. Leonard felt an overwhelming surge of energy, the darkness beginning to dissipate. He closed his eyes, envisioning a world where he and Jennifer were free, together, without the shadows lurking in the background. "Jennifer, I'm coming," he shouted, feeling the light pulse around him. The explosion of light expanded, swallowing the shadows and illuminating the clearing. Leonard felt weightless as he was pulled into the radiant glow, and for the first time, he sensed the shadows losing their grip on him. As the light enveloped him, Leonard saw Jennifer's face appearing in the midst of the brilliance. Her eyes sparkled with hope, and he felt their connection deepening, anchoring him to the light. "Together!" she cried, reaching out toward him. With one final push of will, Leonard joined her, the light cascading around them as they became one with it. In that moment, the shadows evaporated, leaving nothing but a radiant glow and the echo of their love. "Leonard." Jennifer's voice was a melody in his ears as the world shifted around them. As Leonard and Jennifer embraced the radiant light that enveloped them, they felt an indescribable warmth coursing through their beings. It was as if all the love they had shared, all the moments they had experienced together, were being infused into the very fabric of their existence. The darkness that had once threatened to consume them faded away, replaced by a profound sense of peace and clarity. However, their moment of tranquility was short-lived. As the blinding light began to dim, Leonard noticed that the landscape around them was shifting once more. The vibrant colors faded, replaced by a gray, desolate world that felt eerily familiar. The trees were bare, and the air was thick with despair. "Leonard, we must move quickly," Jennifer urged, her voice echoing in the silence. "This is the heart of darkness. It's where the shadows gather to regain their strength." "Where do we go?" Leonard asked, anxiety creeping into his chest. "I thought we defeated them." Jennifer's expression hardened with determination. "We only push them back for now. They will come again, stronger than before. We must find the source, the place where the shadows are born. If we destroy it, we can finally be free." Together, they began to traverse the barren landscape, their hands intertwined, drawing strength from each other. As they walked, the shadows whispered around them, attempting to sow seeds of doubt and fear. "You will never escape this place," a voice hissed, slithering through the air like a serpent. "You are trapped in your own mind." Leonard clenched his jaw, refusing to succumb to the fear. "No, we have each other. We can do this." With Jennifer at his side, they pressed on, the landscape slowly transforming as they ventured deeper into the heart of darkness. Towering cliffs rose around them, and the ground beneath their feet began to tremble, signaling that they were drawing closer to the source. After what felt like hours of navigating the ominous terrain, Leonard and Jennifer arrived at a massive, foreboding cave entrance. Dark tendrils of shadow slithered out from the cave, twisting and curling like living creatures. The air felt electric, charged with an energy that was both exhilarating and terrifying. "This is it," Jennifer whispered, her grip tightening around Leonard's hand. "The source is within. We have to be careful. It will try to manipulate us, to separate us." Leonard nodded, steeling himself for what lay ahead. Together, they stepped into the cave, the darkness swallowing them whole. As they descended deeper into the abyss, the shadows thickened, swirling around them like a storm. Suddenly, the shadows coalesced into a figure, a monstrous amalgamation of darkness that towered over them, its eyes glowing with malice. "You think you can destroy me?" it boomed, its voice reverberating through the cavern. "I am the darkness you fear. I am your insecurities, your regrets." Leonard felt a wave of fear wash over him, but he fought against it. "You don't control me. I am not afraid of you." The creature laughed, a sound like nails scraping against glass. "You think you can stand against the very essence of despair? You are nothing without your fears." "Leonard," Jennifer shouted, stepping forward, her voice fierce. "Remember the light. It's within us." Drawing strength from her words, Leonard focused on the warmth in his heart. He recalled the moments of joy he had shared with Jennifer, the dreams they had spun together. He raised the necklace, its light shining brightly once more. "Together," he called out, holding the pendant aloft. "We are more powerful than you could ever understand." As the light radiated from the necklace, the shadowy figure recoiled, its form writhing and twisting as it fought against the brilliance. Leonard and Jennifer joined their energies, channeling their love and hope into a singular beam of light that pierced through the darkness. The cavern shook violently as the shadows battled against the encroaching light. Leonard felt the power of the necklace surge through him, fueling his determination. He and Jennifer stood firm, united in their purpose. "We can do this," Jennifer urged, her eyes locking onto Leonard's with unwavering faith. "We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who's ever been trapped by the darkness." With renewed vigor, they poured every ounce of love and courage into the light, the beam growing brighter and stronger. The shadowy figure writhed in pain, its monstrous form beginning to fracture and crumble. "No!" it roared, its voice a cacophony of fury. "You cannot defeat me. I will return." "Not if we destroy the source," Leonard shouted back, the light engulfing them both. With a final, deafening cry, the shadows exploded outward, disintegrating into a cloud of darkness that scattered like ash in the wind. The cavern shuddered as the source trembled, and Leonard felt the weight of despair lift from his shoulders. But just as the darkness began to fade, a chilling presence emerged, a familiar figure cloaked in shadow. It was a darker version of Jennifer, her eyes voids of despair, a twisted reflection of the love he had fought for. "You thought you could escape me?" the figure hissed, her voice laced with malice. "I am the darkness you harbor in your heart." Leonard felt his heart race as he stared at the shadowy figure that mirrored Jennifer. "No, you're not her. You're a lie." The dark version of Jennifer laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "Am I? I am all the fears you refuse to face, the part of you that doubts your worthiness of love." Leonard's mind raced as he struggled against the emotional turmoil the shadow conjured within him. "I won't let you win. Jennifer loves me, and I love her." The figure stepped closer, her form flickering between shadow and light. "Love can't save you from the truth. You are not enough. You will always be alone." "Stop," Leonard shouted, the anguish in his voice cutting through the shadows. "You're just trying to deceive me." "Am I?" the dark figure asked, tilting her head. "Or am I simply reflecting your true self? Choose, Leonard. Will you embrace the darkness, or will you fight for the light?" Feeling the weight of the moment press down on him, Leonard took a deep breath. He recalled all the times he had doubted himself, all the moments when he had let fear dictate his actions. But in that darkness, he also remembered Jennifer, their laughter, their dreams, and the light they had shared. "Jennifer is my light," he declared, the necklace glowing fiercely at his chest. "I choose love over fear." With a surge of determination, Leonard unleashed the light within him, directing it toward the shadowy figure. The beam of light struck true, illuminating the darkness and revealing the truth behind the illusion. In an explosion of light, the dark figure disintegrated, leaving only the warmth of love and hope in its wake. The cavern quaked and began to collapse, but Leonard and Jennifer stood firm, their bond stronger than ever. As the cavern crumbled around them, Leonard and Jennifer held each other tightly, their hearts racing with adrenaline. The radiant light that surrounded them pulsed with energy, guiding them toward a new beginning. "Leonard, we did it!" Jennifer exclaimed, her voice filled with joy. "We faced the darkness together." "Yes, and we're free now," Leonard replied, his heart swelling with love and relief. "We broke the curse." With one final surge of light, the world around them transformed, and they found themselves back in the vibrant landscape of the dream realm. The colors were more vivid than ever, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers. "I can't believe we made it," Leonard said, glancing at Jennifer, who looked radiant and full of life. "What happens now?" Jennifer smiled, her eyes sparkling with joy. "Now, we can create our own destiny. We have the power to shape this world together." As they stood hand in hand, Leonard felt a profound sense of peace settle over him. The journey had tested him in ways he never imagined, but he had emerged stronger, ready to embrace the future with Jennifer by his side. Together, they walked through the dream realm, exploring its wonders and uncovering its secrets. They laughed, danced, and shared their dreams, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united by love, hope, and the light they had forged from the darkness. And in that moment, Leonard realized that love was indeed the most powerful force of all, capable of overcoming even the deepest shadows. With Jennifer beside him, he knew they could conquer anything, for they were no longer just dreamers, they were creators of their own reality. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more delightful stories.